Should I tell my best friend's boyfriend that she cheated on him with my FWB? Hello people of Reddit. Last week my 22F best friend 21F of 6 years slept with my FWB 28M. At one point in time, I had strong feelings for him. We would often go on dates and trips together, basically in an open relationship without a title for 3 years with the boundaries set that I didn't sleep with his friends and he didn't sleep with mine. I introduced my friend to him last year as we would often go out and party together. Long story short, last week they were coming to visit me at the restaurant I work at, as we were all going to plan a trip together for my birthday this week. But I didn't clarify which job I was at, so they drove to the wrong city. I told them to just eat there and I would meet up with them after. As they were getting drinks and dinner, she kept asking me if I was mad that she was at dinner with him alone, and I didn't think I had any reason to be. She was also texting me saying how similar we are and how we would get married someday. Lol. I got off of work as they were leaving the restaurant, so they told me to meet them at her house. I get to her house and neither of them were there and they were not answering their phones, so I knew something was up. I then drove to his house and not so surprisingly, they were there. She then called me and said that she was sorry and told me she was parked down the street from her house talking on the phone to her boyfriend and to meet her at her house in 5 minutes. She was talking on the phone with me. They both walked out of his house and he drove her home. I followed them to her house and caught my FWB at the end of the street. I asked him if they slept together and at first he was lying, but I eventually got it out of him. He said they did sleep together and if I were to tell her boyfriend to leave his name out of it. I proceeded to walk into her house and call her some nasty names as she was crying and denying all of it. I told her that I was going to tell her boyfriend, but she was still denying all of it. I left her house and blocked them both on everything. I was strongly considering calling her boyfriend that night to tell him, but figured I should wait until I calmed down to do so. While I do want to tell him because he deserves to know she's unfaithful, I also kind of want to just block them both out of my life entirely and move on with it. Another reason that is holding me back is that she is quite spiteful and I know she will try to take me down with her. Is telling her boyfriend just me being spiteful and petty? Am I being selfish by not telling him, with the reason being that she will try to ruin my life as well? Too long didn't read. My friend of many years slept with my FWB. Should I tell her boyfriend? Golden rule, tell him because you'd want to know, right? Also, your FWB crossed your agreement about not sleeping with friends. I'd cut them both out and move on to healthier relationships, especially with yourself. First of all, sorry you have such a shitty best friend. She's trash AF. For fucking the guy you have been involved with for 3 years and clearly knew you had feelings for him. And 2, for having such a trash dude break one of your boundaries in not sleeping with each other's friends. If I were you, I'd fuck one of his. You definitely need to tell her BF so he can get himself out of a relationship with such a terrible selfish person. Who cares if she's spiteful? You already blocked her anyways. She's out of your life. You owe it to her BF to tell him. If I were you, I'd fuck one of his. I doubt he'd care. If someone knew my BF had cheated on me, I would really appreciate them telling me. I'm out here to have a good time, not to get gonorrhea or some ish, ha ha ha. I'm sure this isn't the first time she's cheated. It's just close to home for you, so you found this one out. If you do, prepare for him not to believe you without hard evidence. Woman shrugging. She lied to both you and her boyfriend, so I would tell him immediately. I don't give a damn about whether she's spiteful or not. Please waste no time and spare no feelings telling him. The more time you wait, the more it will hurt the both of you. Leave his name out of it. What an asshat. Maybe you should have left your dick out of it. I'd want to know for sure. And the FWB doesn't deserve any favors. Is it wrong for me, 24F, to cut contact with my longtime friend, 24F, because of her abusive relationship. My friend Leslie and I have been friends since middle school. She has a history of emotionally toxic relationships, but her most recent one with Henry is the worst one she's been in. Leslie and Henry met very shortly after her breakup with Brandon. She tends to enter new relationships with almost no recovery time in between. They began dating and she ended up spending a lot of her time with him. I thought everything was fine at first, met him and he seemed normal, until her mother tipped me off that something might be wrong. She explained to me a situation where Leslie called her very upset because Henry was screaming at her in public and being incredibly mean while on a vacation. This was my first time hearing about something being wrong, about 3 to 4 months into their relationship. Over time Leslie revealed to me many of the problems they had. I can't list everything, but here are some examples: screaming at her in public so much people would intervene, kicking and punching her car so much it is dented, relying on her for money, screaming at her over the phone, accusing her of cheating, threatening suicide, etc. I found myself worrying for her constantly. I would stay up late watching her location on Find My Friends. I'd speak with her on the phone while she cried. I had her over during fights where she couldn't be alone. I listened to her tell me she was afraid to break up with him, that he knew where she worked and lived. But she always went back, and I always helped her when it went south again. During their final big breakup, Leslie ended up with bruising on her body and the police were called. But it was over. Unfortunately, she entered a new relationship within a few months of ending it with Henry. This new guy was similarly emotionally abusive, but it was long distance, due to the pandemic, and I felt at least she was safe, but urged her to break up with him and to begin attending therapy. Well, she broke up with him after about 6 months, and got back with Henry the same day. She's hiding this from me now, but I can tell that has happened because of the way she dodges questions, how little contact she has with me again, and her Snapchat maps which indicate her in places where she always used to be with Henry. My ultimate problem is that I'm not sure I can deal with her being with Henry again. I want to cut contact with her for my own sake, because my anxiety was through the roof last time and I'm not sure I can deal with it again. It was a year of non-stop worry last time, but at the same time it feels incredibly horrible and selfish of me to draw that boundary. She acknowledged to me that he was abusive, that it needed to end, but is still back with him now. I understand the nature of abusive relationships, but this is a choice she is making for herself, and while I love her and always will, I'm not sure I can stick around for it. Is it wrong of me to want to cut contact with her entirely while this relationship runs its course again, or is it okay to draw a boundary for myself? Too long didn't read. Friend of more than a decade re-entered her abusive relationship. I want to cut contact because of the anxiety and distress it caused me. Is it okay to do this, or am I leaving her in her time of need? You have become something that isn't often talked about in abusive relationships, the second-hand victim. You are being repeatedly traumatized by having to deal with the fallout from Leslie's bad relationships and having to cope with the frustration and fears you very naturally have for her safety. It's okay to walk away to save yourself. There's only so many times you can stop someone from walking back into a blazing fire before you start getting badly burned yourself. Give her one last message of love and hope that she can be ready to break the cycle one day and close the door on this friendship. Thank you for the award, kind Redditor. I've been in a very similar position to you and I did the same as you. Although in my case I gave my friend an ultimatum first. I said it was either me or the boyfriend. I wasn't going to put up with his second-hand abuse rubbing off on me through her, and she understood. They broke up a few months later and she contacted me again and I was there for her again. Don't feel guilty, although do make it clear that you want her friendship when she's ready to be alone. My guess is he's still been talking to her whilst she was with another guy and she's just being manipulated. Inform the police maybe too, so she has support available in case it does get ugly. Thank you for your story, I really appreciate it. Yes, she had been speaking with him while with the other guy, but she unfortunately got into some trouble with the law while she was with Henry, and she kept claiming to me that she had to stay in contact for the court case. I never really believed that was it, and I felt this would be coming. Thank you again. What you're doing is not wrong. There is no need to feel guilty. As much as you're looking out for your friend, you need to look out for yourself too. If it makes you feel better, you can set your boundaries with her, but let her know that if she's ever serious about breaking up / getting away from Henry, you'll be there. If she's really serious. But other than that, you cannot handle the amount of anxiety, stress, and worry her relationship is causing you, and that you want to focus on your mental health. There's nothing wrong with that, so don't feel guilty. I agree with this mostly, except the part about how the relationship is causing the stress. It feels more like the issue is a lack of normal boundaries. Up is doing a lot of emotional labor for friend. It's not just out of the blue phone calls or letting a friend couch surf either. This is deeply involving Up in the abusive relationship where they have no agency. And that is a boundary that needs set. As a domestic abuse survivor myself, I need to tell you that she needs way more help than you can give her. And she has to want help, she has to reach that point. I really hope she doesn't reaches out to a counselor, but unfortunately there's nothing you or anyone can do to make her come to that decision. You have to do what's best for yourself. It's incredibly damaging to your mental health and well-being to watch someone you love be used as a, metaphorical and literal, punching bag over and over again. Think you should tell her exactly why you can't be involved in her life anymore, and that you still care for her a lot, but that it's way too unhealthy for you to be around all this abuse. I would also tell her that you're genuinely scared for her and what might happen to her, saying this may help get through to her in the future when she thinks back on it, and that you'll be there for her if she ever decides to leave and seek professional help. That's the only way her pattern of picking these dangerous partners will change. You've done everything you can and you've gone above and beyond for her and, in my opinion, been an amazing friend. But you can't help someone who doesn't want help. Now you have to do what's best for yourself, even though it hurts that you can't help her or make her see what's wrong with all this. I'm so sorry you're going through this. Best of luck. How do you deal with your partner's phone addiction? So lately I 25F have been noticing that my guy, 28 meters, spends all of his free time on his phone, even watching TV simultaneously. The only time he is not on his phone is when he's taking a shower. I on the other hand feel like I can't start a conversation when I see him staring at the screen. I don't see it as a genuine conversation or that he is present. This is a long-term relationship, 9 years, and has been this way always. And of course I tell him that it bothers me. I tell him often. How do you do it? Do you also use the phone as much as your partner? Do you have phone free time? Or maybe it doesn't bother you that much? Too long didn't read. Absolutely all of his free time off of work he's glued to the screen. Start by asking for specific, narrow windows where he's not on the phone. Hey, while we're watching this show together, can we ignore our phones? I want to feel like we're sharing an experience. Or can we adopt a no phones at the table rule? Can you not just randomly check your phone when we're having a conversation? Those are reasonable asks. And in the medium term, if he agrees to them, I want to encourage you to let it go at other times. You don't want to approach this like, your phone addiction is a problem. You want to approach it positively. I want to create moments for the two of us. What does he say when you tell him it bothers you, or when you ask him to put his phone down when you're having a conversation? That's tough. I think it's easy for some people to get addicted to the stimulation that screens give. Some people have a very hard time sitting for more than a few minutes without going to their phone. When you use them too much, your brain gets accustomed to a high threshold of stimulation. Have you ever tried framing it in terms of how he's using his time? Personally, I get bummed out by the idea that I have spent countless hours doing mindless crap on my phone. And that thought has helped me to cut down and spend more time doing other things I enjoy. Another thought is, if there are any activities you two would typically do together, maybe ask for those to be phone-free times. Like if you go on a walk or play a board game or whatever else you might do. make it technology free. Above all else, I would be sure to communicate that you feel when he's on his phone that it creates a barrier between you two, and explain that it doesn't feel like a genuine conversation or connection when he's not even looking at you. It's not just the screen/blue light. The majority of smartphone apps are designed with the express purpose to keep you in them longer. That's how I play my one Candy Crush-like game. If I go weeks between session, I get fuck tons of time bonuses and things so they can keep me longer.